anything. I was being just
angry
in general terms.
So yes, so we're live. We'll get started with recording in just a moment. But speaking of our friends at Comcast, so I've got a client in Georgia, and they've been having all kinds of trouble. They have an iMac, and they're using the Comcast router as their central router in the house. They don't have their own router. Yeah, I know. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But look, it's one computer, one person.
I know. And they support it, if you want to call it that.
This is what I'm getting to. So he's had trouble with his iMac just like slowing down exponentially when it comes to internet related stuff. You know, pulling up Facebook or Instagram, it takes forever to pull up the pages, which, you know, look, those are horribly complicated sites anyway, but something else was going on. And so I would connect to them with Splashtop and I would get disconnected. The connection would drop and then I'd get reconnected and I'd drop again. Like, this is your internet. Yep. So I suggested he contact Comcast. And in doing so, and this was my fault for not providing him a good script before he called, but he called and he said, "Hey, I'm having trouble with my Wi-Fi." Right. So they send a tech on site, and malicious compliance, the tech checks the router and checks the computer and says, "Yeah, your Wi-Fi is fine. Have a good day."
Have a nice
and leaves.
Day. Yeah.
So he's still having trouble. He contacts me yesterday. We're checking things out. And finally, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. I did a speed test. Well, let's do a speed test. I never think about doing a speed test with cable because cable always has pretty decent connection speeds.
Unless the connection is bad.
We're pulling in, when we did a speed test, we were pulling in 3 to 5 megabits per second, max.
Yeah, that's rough.
And I'm like, there's your problem. Right there. There's your problem.
There's your problem.
So,
does he live in a rural area?
Of course, the tech didn't see that.
The tech, this took a couple segments of the conversation to figure this out, but the tech had said they replaced some wiring that was older. I thought, oh, well, that's great. You know, replace the wiring that's older. That'll get you going. And no, what they replaced was some wiring in the house. For all I know, he just replaced an RF cable that was screwed into the wall and then run to the modem or something, and that's what he did. But never checked the cabling outside, never checked the cabling to the street, never checked any of that. Just, like I said, malicious compliance. Everything looks good. Bye. So now I said, okay, first you have to figure out what you're paying for. There are horribly slow plans. Right. You know, if you
like
only want to pay
75 megabit plan.
There's horribly slow plans, and maybe he's paying $20 a month or something. He said, no, he's paying $250 a month for.
Holy crap.
He probably has 800 megabit or 1 gig.
Whatever he's paying for, he's not getting it. So
I'm so glad I don't have them here in my house anymore.
Does he have them for TV or something too?
He does, yeah. So part of that $250 or whatever is TV, and that, cool. Okay. I get that.
That's what we're paying. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
For our lake house.
By the way, did you see the new subscription prices for Hulu Live and all that? It's pushing $100 a month. Yeah. Coming up in October.
Oh my God.
They're going to be bumping prices to like $100 a month. I'm like, no.
Disney's pushing it up.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And yet, if you want the plan that I want the Duo plan, which is Hulu without commercials and Disney Plus without commercials. If you are a Disney Plus subscriber and you want to add Hulu, you can add the Duo plan, and it's $19.99 a month. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. That's what I have now.
But if you are a Hulu subscriber and you want to add Disney Plus, you cannot get the Duo plan. you
Right.
have to subscribe to the triple plan, which includes ESPN Plus, which I don't care. I don't want ESPN Plus. I want the $19.99 a month. Boom, that's it. But nope, you can't get that if you're a Hulu subscriber first.
Yep.
And I honestly, I don't want to lose my Hulu history. You know, I don't want to lose all the shows I subscribe to. I don't want to lose all that stuff. So I just, the one plan that's not going up in price in October is the one that I want. And I can't get it.
That's
hey,
so
Brian.
odd.
Brian's in the chat room, by the way.
Hey, Brian.
Speaking of streaming
Brian?
TV.
Yeah, it's and you can't even use the Hulu app anymore once you get that dual pan. You have to use Hulu within Disney Plus.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, well, that stinks. That stinks. Well,
yeah, that does.
Because that's what's going to probably ultimately end up happening. Is I think they're going to combine Hulu and Disney Plus. I think that's what their goal had been. So you may lose your history anyway if that does happen at some point.
Right.
Oh, good gracious. Well, Hulu's the one I've been consistently subscribing to for, I don't even know how long. I don't know how long. Forever. And it's the one that actually we're turning more to Netflix these days. We have not been a Netflix subscriber traditionally, and we've only recently subscribed to that. And I think that's why we're turning to it more now, is because it's got shows that we've never watched before. So, of course, then the issue is they pull them off the network before we get a chance to finish them. So,
I know.
Yeah.
We get into these shows that have had like 9 seasons, and then we get partway through and they pull them off.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so nice. I love that. Yeah, we've had the same thing. I've actually had that where I think I've actually had to go out and buy the DVD or something or some sort of whatever just to finish it.
Yep. We've got a show. We have 2 seasons left, and it's I'll say traditional TV show where you've got 22 plus episodes per season. That doesn't exist anymore. But
it doesn't.
The good old 22 episodes per season that we're used to. Well, we have 2 seasons left, and they just turned on the little banner that said going away September 5th. So
so you have to like finish it in less than a month.
In less than a month. We've got 38 episodes to watch in less than a month. So, and it's an hour-long show. That makes it even more fun. So we're either going to do a marathon or do exactly what you said. Janet actually checked with the library already, and they have all the seasons of the show. So we'll just...
Oh, that's great.
If we don't get through them all by September 5th, we'll check it out and watch it that way.
That's good, though. That's definitely good.
Bonus, still no commercials. So
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I mentioned that one story, and I was reading some more about it today, and I think I'm going to shelve it for now. I'm not going to rant about it right at the moment.
Sure.
But everything I've been reading, all the third-party articles about it and stuff, I haven't seen anybody else say this, but I'm not going to upgrade to Sequoia if this is the fact. I'm just not going to do it. I can't. It's ridiculous.
I missed it. What was it? Why did
I sent a story in the email to you guys yesterday
about I missed that because it was
the new nanny state of Sequoia, and it is going to, on a weekly basis or every time you shut down or reboot your Mac, warn you about apps that have screen recording capability, and you have to give approval to those apps.
Oh my gosh, every single time?
Every week.
What the heck? Why?
Because apparently we can't manage our own computers. Apple needs to do it for us. Welcome to the Apple nanny state. But I'm going to do a little more reading about it. It's not in the final product yet. It's only in the beta. We'll see. Maybe it won't make it, but how often has Apple put something like that in the beta and not had it in the final release? It's going to be in
Yeah.
there. And I cannot, with good conscience, recommend Sequoia to anybody if this is the case. That is ridiculous. Why actually I saw this headline, but I thought of it before then. Why do we need Mac OS Vista? We just don't need it. And I refuse to succumb to that. So I just will not upgrade to Sequoia if this feature is in there upon launch. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I need a computer that I can control. Where's the Pro mode? Where's the Mac Pro mode so that I can just flip a switch and say, I don't want to hear from you ever.
Right. I've said that over and over again. And it really is. It is starting to become Windows like in that regard. And that just drives me nuts. Why the screen recording? I don't get that. I mean, there's so many other things that you have to tick off when you install a new app that, I mean, it's bad enough that when you migrate from old computer to a new computer,
it's horrific.
You have to go through. Oh,
it's awful.
Again, where's the Pro mode that says, I've already said yes to all this stuff. Leave it be, just, or carry that over, it just, yeah.
There was one instance in an article, and this is what gave me pause. I know we're talking about it live right now, but this is what gave me pause to not officially talk about it in the audio podcast yet. And that is that there may be situations, especially in a domestic abuse situation, where you need to know if someone is making an attempt to spy on you. I get that.
Yeah.
But as the article pointed out, and as I agree with, if you feel you are in that situation, there should be the opportunity to turn on an enhanced privacy mode, not force everybody else in the world to well, you can't opt out. You can't opt out. This is just it. Everybody else in the world has to deal with it for these situations, which are unfortunate and shouldn't happen. But because of these situations where someone might be making an attempt to spy on somebody, everybody has to be has to deal with this. And I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense, but like you said, just don't include everybody.
Yeah. And where did Dave go?
Sorry, my camera's giving me.
Maybe he's still dealing with his Comcast situation.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my camera's giving me problems here. I'm just relaunching it.
You probably got one of those AI cameras, and it said, "I'm smarter than you, and I've determined that you do not want video right now." Actually, Brian had one of those too, and it was doing kind of wonky stuff when he was on.
It's the what is it? It's all
Insta360. Yeah.
Oh, you have that? What do you have? The Insta360?
Yeah.
Dave? Yeah, that's what I got too. I'm not using it at the moment, but that's yeah.
I wonder if that was your problem, Eric, when you were on last time. It was so dark. I wonder if the camera was making a determination that it needed to adjust lighting or something.
Yeah, I think so. I know I haven't quite got it where I've liked the way that it's working. I just had to figure it out. I know you do kind of wonder sometimes with the AI, what is it actually doing? Maybe it doesn't like the way I look, and it's trying to say, you need to have everything dark, and we need to change your voice, and then you'll be good.
The very reason I don't use AI cameras because they would be turning off on me all the time.
Yeah. There's something wrong with this guy.
Yep. We got to turn this off. This is not a good situation we're in right now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get going. So the idea is, and I think we'll have plenty to talk about with this, because I know Eric has been testing the beta as well, is for Dave to share his top 5 favorite features coming to iOS 18.
My handy iPhone 13 ready to go here.
Oh, he's got the 13 with it. Is that a pink? Is that the
That's
pink
running
one,
beta.
or Starlight, or what
Yeah.
is that one?
I think that's the pink one.
I
That's my
love
wife's
it.
old one.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the color.
All right. So that's the only thing I was gonna cover today. I think that'll take us pretty much through the whole episode. I think. Oh, and then Dave Dave volunteered to do volunteered. I asked him and he said sure.
Oh, I would. Yeah, I'm in the Mac world just as much as iOS.
Volunteered to do the essential app this week. So we'll turn
sweet.
it over to Dave when that comes.
Awesome.
Oh, is this going to be me? Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We only do one a week.
We just
Oh,
do
highlighting
one.
me here. Huh?
We just do one,
Yeah.
and always give the guest the opportunity to be the essential app pick for the week. If you don't, I always keep one in my back pocket. I always keep one in the back pocket just in case.
Plenty of Mac apps I use.
Yep. So
It's better be good. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's. We love to hear Dave's essential app pick for this week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's my missing lightning cable. Huh. It was right there the whole time. Hey, anybody else notice that with the black cables? I have the hardest time finding them.
Yeah. It does make a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah. My new
You like them.
I'm using USB-C right now with the MacBook Pro, but the MagSafe power cable is gray or black or something.
Black. Yeah.
And I could not for the life of me find that power adapter. And it was because the power adapter was back behind a shelving unit I have, and the cable was coiled up on top, and I could not see that black cable there. It took me forever to find it. I was going through all my bags. I was going through the Macstock totes, and all this stuff. I could not find the darn power cable anywhere, and it was sitting here coiled up next to me, like 3 feet from me the entire time.
Yeah. So there is something good about the white cables.
Yeah. All right. With that said, let's get started. And a big bummer, I forgot to press record again. And look what I have.
Start recording.
Yeah. And what did I do?
Dummy.
I'm gonna add dummy to it right now.
Dummy.
But, well, at least I started recording before the show. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we will get started in just one moment here. The good news is we're only 30 seconds in, so all I have to do is write down 30 seconds, and that's where we start in the recording. Good deal. All right. In 3, 2, 1. It's For Mac Guys Only, episode number 436 for August 9th, 2024. Future iPhone Fun Features. Hey everyone, welcome back to For Mac Guys Only, the show for the Mac community, where we share our thoughts and opinions on current Mac news and events. And joining me as always to discuss all things Mac is my For Mac Guys Only co-host, Eric Erickson. Hey Eric, how you doing?
Hey Mike, how are you?
I am good, and here to share his wisdom on iOS 18 and give us a little peek at what's to come. Is the host of In Touch with iOS, Dave Ginsburg. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Mike. This is great to be here and talk about iOS future things here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And remember, we do normally record For Mac Guys Only live on YouTube the second and fourth Friday of the month. And if you would like to come hang out, ask questions, and be part of our live studio audience, be sure to subscribe to the show at youtube.com/FMEO TV. And if you are joining us live, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat room over here. So if you have any questions or comments as we move along, just go ahead and pop them in there, and we'll try to address them here on the show. Well, last time we had first-time Macstock presenter Brian Flanagan Arthurs on the show, but it's nice to have you on, Dave, not only to share the latest on iOS with us, which we'll get to in just a moment, but also because you are a regular Macstock presenter yourself. In fact, I'm not even sure I'd say regular. You are OG Macstock, Dave, because I don't think you have missed one as a presenter yet, have you?
I have not. No, I was all 8 of the in-person events. I'm very proud of that. And yes, and then helped out with all the other stuff during the pandemic days. So yeah, so I've been with you for a long time.
A long time, yeah. Now, I didn't tell you that I was going to ask you this, but now that we've hit 10 years of Macstock, and I know there's a lot to draw from here, but what have been some of your favorite moments from Macstock, either past or present? It could even be this year.
Oh gosh,
I know.
I'll be honest. My favorite moment was Macstock 1 in 2015. Was when you welcomed me into the family, and I was up on stage. I wasn't doing a podcast at that time. I was just leading a Mac user group. We got to meet each other, got to become good friends, and then just being up on stage with Chuck and Dave Hamilton, and Alice, and Tim Robertson, Guy Searle, all those folks, and I'm up here like, I don't fit here. I'm not even a podcaster. And that was really what influenced me. And I have that video to this day. I watch back there and remember Chuck say to me, well, what are you doing next Tuesday? So
yeah,
so
that's right.
Welcome me into that into the family, and then here I am 8 years later. I think I've coincided in touch with iOS basically with Macstock for the 8 years of in-person events since I've been doing the podcast for almost 8 years now, over 8 years now.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you've already answered this because the first year was your favorite, and actually that makes a ton of sense. I mean, that was what really kickstarted your podcasting career.
It did. It did.
But with all the different presentations that you've done throughout the years, do you have a favorite presentation?
Well, you know what? I think last year in 2023, I really think I knocked it out of the park with the cloud computing presentation. I've done stuff on streaming. We did that back in 2022, and I think I remember did one on Apple Watch. I did one on Apple Notes. So I really have had a vast mix of all the different topics over the last 8 years. But I think the cloud computing one is a little more fresher in my mind. And even this year, I mean, talking about Apple services again. Another exciting thing that's going on right now in the Apple world, especially we looked at the last results, their quarterly results, how services just keep continuing to rise here.
Yeah.
That was even more of an important discussion when I had my talk this year. So, but yeah, it's hard to pick one or the other. I would say, I think the cloud one really stood out. I mean, I've really honed in on my presenting skills more so, and doing it that way. And that, of course, that event was a lot cozier. We were in a smaller venue too, so that kind of helps a little when you're speaking. So not that the one this year wasn't bad either, but yeah, I think that one probably really stood out for me.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned that your podcast is in touch with iOS, and obviously that's why I asked you on here this week, because we are getting super close to the final release of iOS 18. I'd say we're probably, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 5-6 weeks away from that.
Usually it's usually in September is when they generally will announce when it's going to get released, right, and coinciding with the new iPhone that comes out every year. It seems like they've been pretty consistent, and I think this year's no different. I mean, I think the biggest difference right now with beta and iOS right now is, I think, in 18, that's the first time I've seen ever that they've had to do. It's because of Apple Intelligence. I mean, having out 18.0 and 18.1 with simultaneous betas going on, and they even had 17.6 in beta too before 18.1 came out. So this has been a rather interesting beta cycle this year, just because of having so much that they have to work with. 18.1 makes sense because, of course, that only works on a Pro or 15 Pro Max currently, because AI is not going to be compatible to to anything lower than on an iPhone, where the iPads will have a little more compatibility. I think it's going to be just all the M1 processors will only be compatible to that. But the 15, even though it has, like, I think it was an A18, I think it is, the processor. It's in there now. It's very close to being an M1 on the iPhone reasoning. I mean, it makes total sense because of Apple Intelligence is going to require some pretty serious processing power.
Well, I was fortunate to be on your show. What was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that? And at the time, you had mentioned that we were in the 4th public beta. Is that correct?
We're in the right now. We're in the 3rd public beta, I believe.
The 3rd public beta right now, which means that regular old folks who have a spare iPhone and want to give iOS 18 a go can test it out if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I guess you could test it out on your production phone if you really are feeling frisky, but
don't do that.
Not recommended. So we're in the 3rd public beta, and then how many developer betas have we seen at this point?
Well, 5, and then plus the one 18.1 I think is only on the first iteration. So
they've actually started a separate branch for the betas just for those who are testing Apple Intelligence.
18.1 is strictly just for that. Yeah. So if you don't have a 15 Pro or Pro Max, you won't be able to install 18.1.
Okay. Well, for everyone listening who's curious about what iOS 18 might be bringing to our phones this fall, there are just a ton of changes. I mean, I tried to get a handle on what was coming before we recorded the show, but there's just so much. So what I thought we could do, because not only are these changes going to make our phones easier to use, but in some cases, I think maybe more fun to use. And in one particular case, I know that it fine-tunes that integration between macOS and iOS. But now that it's in public beta and we've had a chance for folks to experiment around with it, if they want to, and we talked about that already.
Right.
I actually thought it might be fun if you came on the show and shared your top 5 favorite new features of iOS 18. And then as we go through the list, maybe we can end up with your number 1 pick last. But if we're ready, why don't we get started? What would be your number 5 favorite new feature coming to iOS this fall?
Let's go down. I'll talk about the calculator. The calculator app it's got the big deal was an iPad OS that was released. You remember the running joke was why doesn't the iPad have a calculator? I mean, it made no sense at all, and it's just crazy that it never had it for all these years, and then Apple never understood why does that have to be the case here. So this year in iOS 17, iOS 18 was announced that the calculator iOS 17, I think the calculator did come out, if I remember correctly, on the iPad. But 18 is going to have some new features. Specifically, it's going to be having the math problems where you actually can go in and do the math notes, it's called. And it does it in a mode where you got basic scientific and math notes. It also does conversion, and then you can turn conversions on and off right from a menu that's down in the calculator. So it's down at the bottom left with the calculator icon. So you can switch to math notes, and you can even do this on the iPhone. So you can basically what you're doing is you're 2 plus 2 equals, or what's the square root of 81, or anything you want to do, and it's going to automatically calculate based on you writing it on with your finger on the iPhone. Now the iPad makes it even more of an enhanced experience. The fact if you have an Apple Pencil, you're doing straight out like you got a pad of paper. You're going to be starting to do all the math calculations by just handwriting it like we used to do in the old school days. But it's all digital, and then the great thing about it is it saves it into your Notes app, so then you can keep that in a place where it saves it there, which is pretty cool. Before, what you had to do with the scientific calculator, you always had to go. you'd have to go into landscape. You'd go into landscape mode,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
it would bring it in. But then you'd have to go into a mode. Well, now you can just go into the menu and switch it, and it'll be both in landscape. I'm showing on the screen here. You can do it in the landscape mode or in the portrait mode. So you weren't able to
Really?
do that
Oh,
before.
that's
Yeah.
nice.
Which is
So
slick. Yeah.
so I know it's subtle things for a thing called calculator, and that's the one thing I picked. I think is one of the top five. And I see Brian's note. Thank you so much about saying that about my presentations there. The calculator is a unique app now. I think you got some more cooler features that have been added to that. So
Well, I think you answered my question. So, as you were describing these notes, where you're writing with the pencil and it's able to interpret
yep.
what you're writing and actually perform the calculations on what you're writing, which is just by itself crazy. These notes are automatically saved into the Notes app, or do you have to specifically say, now save this to the Notes app?
As far as I know, I haven't tried that specifically. If you go in, if you go into the math notes, and I'm saying I gotta.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, because it brings it up. I'll bring it up on screen here. If people watching on a video, it brings it up here with the keyboard. So it's basically within the Notes app. So you do the notes, and then it's going to save it for you.
And then does it create its own folder for those saved calculations, or does it just drop it into?
It drops it into the notes list, so it'll say
okay.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And that's now, to be clear, we're not just talking about the iPad by itself. We're talking about the iPhone too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's going to be incredibly useful.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I think they've made some really good enhancements. So.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, this is. Oh, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the other hand, this is going to do a little bit of a disservice to the third-party calculator market for the iPad.
Right.
Wow. I never did find one that I liked all that well. I always kind of like when it comes to calculators, I like simpler the better. Every once in a while, I might switch into that scientific mode, but for the most part, I just like to pull up that calculator and go. So I never really found a calculator for the iPad that I fell in love with. So so I guess no love lost there. But with all these changes coming, I wonder how these third-party developers are going to step up.
Yeah, I wonder too. Actually, I like even just the like when you type in just like say 2 + 2, it actually puts 2 + 2 on there, and you can hit equal. And it's got a backspace, so you can remove the other. The original calculator, you pretty much had the C for clear, AC for all clear, whatever. And if you were doing multiple calculations and kind of got lost in it, it seemed, I ended up usually using different calculators. I usually use pCalc and I use Solver a lot. But I think this one also has tape, if I'm not mistaken, and you can do conversion. So they really beefed it up. I mean, they really made it so, and yet they kept it simple too. So I mean, they've made it nice where it's just a great all around calculator. I mean, they really, I think, brought it into the 21st century. I mean, and it, not that it was bad anyway, but I think they've really, made it nice to use.
That's a good point about pCalc, Eric, because that's what I use on the Mac. Ever since they got rid of Dashboard, and I lost that quick access calculator that I used to absolutely love and depend upon every day in the dashboard. Once that disappeared, I had to find a replacement, and pCalc is what I found there. Now, I never did try or use pCalc for iOS, which I believe exists.
It does. In fact, actually, I think that's where I first had it, was on the iPhone, and it's terrific. One of the things from using in college, from using the HP 48S calculator, I got really used to reverse Polish notation,
Mm.
which is instead of saying like 5 plus 5, you say 5 enter 5 plus. And it's really great for chain calculations because then you can do 10 plus, 3 minus, whatever, and just constantly keep, adding or subtracting or multiplying with that in that chain. And I got so used to that doing the 2 plus 2 equals or whatever was just hard to get back to. So pCalc does that. And I was kind of hoping they would have added that. Apple would have added it to their calculator, but they didn't. So,
and sometimes it's referred to as RPN.
yes, RPN.
Yeah. But I guess I should have figured you were one of those calculator users, Eric.
Yeah. Calculator
You
nerd.
can't be normal like the rest of us. No.
Yeah.
You have to do these weird RPN calculations. That makes Eric happy.
That makes Eric happy. Yes.
Well, it does seem strange. Look, we're in 2024. It seems strange that of the top 5 features coming to iOS 18, Calculator would be one of them. But the changes that Apple has brought to Calculator really does make it a fantastic pick as a top new feature headed our way this fall.
Yeah.
It really does.
Well, what would be your number 4 pick, Dave?
I think my number 4 pick is RCS support. I think in text messaging, that's been a big deal for a while now with Apple. I was avoiding it for years. And hey, let's face it, we have friends that have Androids, and we'll forgive them for doing that. But but the great thing is now it's going to be fully compatible with anybody that's in a group chat that has an Android device, as well as of course everybody an iPhone already, and that's because you're going to be able to see a more rich text. It's gonna be a lot more robust. And I mean, yes, there'll still be green bubbles. I know everybody's got a problem with that, but that's the way it is. And I think that's actually a smart thing because it's still going to distinguish that it is indeed an Android user, but they're now going to be able to see us giving thumbs ups and hearts and all the little emoji icons we put on the text and seeing everything in rich content format like we all experienced with in group messages for iPhone. So I thought number 4 was a good thing to pick that just because of that reason. Because hey, there's just as many Android users out there as there are iPhone users. Well, I think iPhone is a little more popular.
Yeah.
As far as Android is the most popular around the world, but the iPhone is probably most popular ones in the U.S. and other countries. But I think that was the good thing that Apple finally did.
Yeah, I never really grasped the importance of RCS until I think it was you, Eric, mentioned the group chats. And that's something that I just don't do that frequently. So I never really noticed some of the pitfalls of it. And you had explained that once before on the show, Eric, but when you're not using RCS and you're communicating in a group chat with Android users or actually any other platform, whatever it might be, BlackBerry or Google Voice, or, you're going to get those green bubbles. But what are the pitfalls of not having RCS implemented when it comes to group chats?
Well, what we were running into was it would start a new, and this was a while ago, but there was essentially 2 people, I think, in the group of maybe like 12 or 13 that didn't have iPhones. And what was happening was it would start whenever one of them would respond, and then it kind of just ended up being when anybody responded, it would actually start like a new thread, like a new group chat. And so you'd have these multiple chats out, in messages with all these names in them, and you would see it was almost like Twitter. You couldn't figure out where is this coming from? What are they responding to? And finally, we just moved to, I think, was it GroupMe? It's another messaging app. There's a bunch
Microsoft.
of them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Microsoft. That's right. And it was just kind of sanity. You're just like, I'm just glad I can see everybody's messages and everybody. It's just it was insane. It really was. And so, and of course, there's other neat things that RCS, even just one-on-one, you now kind of get that, those three dots. So you can see if somebody's typing. You could get red receipts and stuff like that. The one thing I did notice, though, is it depends upon the provider or the carrier. Not all carriers can handle RCS or something. So you can chat with somebody and it might be SMS, and it tells you right in the little, where you type your text in the text field. It'll say dash SMS or dash RCS.
Oh,
so
really?
You know, yeah,
Okay.
if you're hit
some of the smaller carriers, some of the smaller carriers, especially MVNOs that are like Mint Mobile and Cricket, and those are considered secondary carriers. Some may not participate. I think they've gotten a lot better with it now. With some of those carriers, Mint Mobile is very popular, and that's T-Mobile. Cricket, I believe, is AT&T.
AT&T, yeah.
And then and Verizon has theirs, and so they all have their secondary Metro by T-Mobile. So T-Mobile's got quite a few MVNOs, but but I think that support has gotten better. When it comes to that.
Yeah, you'll find that a lot with MVNOs. In other words, the carriers owned by the larger carriers in many cases, or these days anyway. It didn't used to be the case, but now they're all being bought up by the larger carriers, which in some ways is great because you get the advantage of their network now without having to worry about roaming and all that stuff. But sometimes they just opt not to roll out the same feature set, obviously by design. Right. They want you to switch over to the full T-Mobile or the full AT&T or Verizon or whatever. But so that's interesting. And RCS also brings, if I recall correctly, a secure connection, which SMS was not necessarily a secure connection. Right. So that would be one reason, as you pointed out, Eric, to see RCS or SMS if you know that the communication you're having with that person is secured end to end.
Secure. Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think right now, Apple even says that in the beta, don't worry about it being encrypted. I guess the RCS, it'll be encrypted at some point, but it's not now. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think during beta, it's not for some reason. So.
What about some of the weirder features of messages like stickers and things like that? Can you apply them to messages like you can when communicating with another iPhone user, or is that just going to show up as a GIF or a static image like it does now?
I'm thinking it might be the latter, although I don't know for sure. But yeah, that is a good question, and I think there's things too, though, along with that is you'll be able to send higher quality videos and stuff like that, I know, than you can now when you send it through SMS. But that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe Dave knows.
It's funny you mentioned that because I had a client try to send me a video of something that was going wrong on their computer. And yes, they had an Android phone and they sent me this video, and it was the tiniest little postage stamp thing. And it was so blocky, so grainy. I'm like, I have no clue what you're trying to show me. It could be a turtle or it could be your Windows desktop. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, it could be.
I thought, SMS, wasn't MMS supposed to take care? I guess, I don't know. I thought it would be better than, that's weird.
No, MMS was never great technology in the first place. I think RCS has made some vast improvements, but Apple was just resistant to it. I think they were still concerned about the security of it, but I think they heard that they saw the writing on the wall. They were getting lots of pressure from everybody saying, why don't you have RCS? It took finally they gave in, and now we're going to allow it. So I think I'm happy they did that.
Yeah. And to your question about MMS too, Eric, I think sometimes the messaging app on a particular phone takes over and intercedes and says, oh, this image or this video is way too large. I'm going to compress this down into nothingness before we send it out to the the
Right.
messaging system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think you're totally right about that.
Yep.
All right. So calculator, RCS. What's your number 3 pick, Dave?
Well, it's going to be kind of I'm combining these. It's going to be all one, but I'm combining them because they're somewhat related. The home screen customization, moving apps around on any place of the home screen, as well as being able to remove app names from the screen, so you can just have icons. I'll start
Yeah.
with I'll start with the home arranging the home screen. What's amazing about this now is the home screen can be very fluid. You can move anything anywhere. All you have to do is you go up into the when you tap anywhere on the home screen, you can make those icons jiggle. You press the edit button, and it's going to bring up a menu. You'll have 3 choices: add widget, customize, or edit pages. If you do customize, that's going to bring you into the hide apps. I'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, all you have to do is get the apps to wiggle, and then you start dragging your icons around anywhere you want on the screen, and they can be placed anywhere. I'll show it I'm showing on camera here too. You see how I've got icons in different little places here. That's what's amazing about this. It's very much of a customizable way of doing things. Now you can have a page specific to what your needs are. If you only want a page that has just a couple icons and they're all, everything, all the things that you use all the time, then that's great. Then you'll be able to do that, and be able to do a really, really fun way of customizing it, as well as including widgets. You can have a widget and then a couple apps that you use on one page, and then you can go to the next page and then create another page. So really, really a long time coming for Apple to finally realize. I mean, guys, I think you could do this on Android for quite a long time here.
Oh my gosh, forever.
Yeah, forever. So
it
took them a while.
It's not a secret. Anyone who's
Yeah.
listened to the show for a while knows that I was on Android for many, many years.
Sure.
And I think it was probably 2016 or something like that where I finally switched over to the 6. Or 6S or whatever it was that year.
Yep.
But the thing I missed the most when I switched over were the customized home screens where I had icons where I wanted them. And the iPhone wanting to constantly kind of put them in the order that it wanted to and not the order that I wanted to was very annoying to me. But now I'm so used to having the screens, and I just know, okay, that's my game screen. This is my communication screen. This is my whatever screen, my productivity screen, whatever. It's almost like too little, too late. But this is going to be a huge feature for those who are new to the iPhone and switching over from Android to make them feel at home on the platform. And I think that's. I can imagine that one of the primary reasons for making this change is because Apple wanted to make it an easier transition for folks coming from Android.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
now you mentioned hiding the app names. I didn't actually know that was coming.
It is. So same thing. You're going to hold on the screen, then click the edit menu, and now you go under customize, and that brings up that menu. And they've been talking about this. This is the customize menu here I'm showing on the screen. This allows you to change it to different colors and different modes, all that stuff. But what you can do in here is you switch it from small to large, and once you do that, and I'll show it on the screen for Mike and everybody else who was watching, that now all the names of the apps are gone. So when you're flipping through all your apps here, that's all you're going to see is just the icons themselves. And sometimes people like that. I think it'll allow, actually it's going to have 4 across, and you'll have be able to add more apps on one page because it's remove the naming on it. So
that's good.
That's kind of a subtle feature of what was added, but I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, here I've got it set up so it shows 2 widgets at the top, and then it has and then all the icons there, and actually I don't know if I can add another. I think I can add another row down here at the bottom. So
wow,
it does really expand it. So so I thought that was a cool bonus to what the home screen. That's the customization. They kind of fit hand in hand to where you're customizing your home screen, and you can do it that way too. And I believe you can do the customizing home screen with these. I think it stays the same Let me see. Yep. So it doesn't change. So the customizations will still stay, and you'll be able to leave your icons wherever you want. It's just, of course, limited on real estate, because it does make the icon a little larger.
Ah,
So,
now I imagine that in the app library, the names will still be there. It's
oh, of
just
course.
on the home screens
Yeah. Let me
where they're
check
hidden.
on that.
Yeah.
But no, actually, the app library never really did have names on it. It just showed icons too. And maybe it does change, because I don't
What
see
about
it. I
list
don't see it.
the list view?
Let's see. Yeah, but for list view, of course, you tap the search, then it shows it. Yeah.
Which, by the way, Dave, you taught me in one of your talks at Macstock.
Okay. Great. you, you learned something from me.
I learn a lot from you, especially when it comes to iOS. I mean, that's a platform where, to me, it's more utilitarian. I don't spend a whole heck of a lot of time on the phone if I'm doing anything other than quickly checking email or maybe browsing news or something like that. I just don't spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it, so I don't have that opportunity to play with it and learn about it. So I do learn a lot from you and being on your show
Thanks.
and listening to your show, because those are things that I just don't discover otherwise. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
How do you
I do
feel?
like that.
Now, maybe this ties into the home screen customization and removing the names, but how do you feel about the feature where you can recolor everything? I find
Uh,
that a
I'm,
little
I'm on the fence.
weird.
I'm on the
Yeah.
fence on it. I mean, there's a lot of young kids out there who love to be able to customize to their heart's content, and that's great. They want to have a lot of dark purple icons on everything. Go for it. If they want it to be all black, go for it. But I mean, I think it's just showing that Apple's finally realizing that you got to give people the ability to being able to customize it the way they wish and
Mm.
how they enjoy it. I mean, to have that flexibility, I think is smart. I mean, again, Android was doing that for years too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
you
had
could
to be
download all kinds of themes that did all kinds of
yeah.
weird stuff with your Android phone.
So I do have this. I know you're not going to believe this, but I do have a a Pixel 8 right here. This is the Pixel 8. So I've been trying to get. I was able to work out a way of having that. I won't go into how, but it didn't cost me that much. Let's put it that way. That
No, they don't. Yeah.
because especially when you split it with somebody. But anyway, but just staying on top of the technology is important to me. So that's why But I mean, I get questions at my day job that sometimes with an Android, they know I'm a big Apple guy and a big iPhone guy, but sometimes they'll ask me a question. Oh, yeah, I, mean, I think I can do this, and I can pull out the phone and say, hey, look, you can do this, and
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
see. So yeah, I've been kind of seeing what Android, what the world of Android. Also, features on it. I had an old one from I think I had the Pixel 2 XL. I still have it in the drawer somewhere. That thing's really old, and it's gonna be it's obsolete. I mean, it's end of the road. It won't update to a new OS. But yeah, but as far as customizations go, I think it was a smart move on Apple's part to finally add that and make people happy. That's their whole intent. They want their customers to be happy and enjoy using their Apple products.
And then, of course, it depends upon the developers of the third party apps to ensure that their icons display
Right.
nicely when recolored. There's a few I can imagine that are just, I'm not even going to be able to tell what they are if you
Yeah.
recolor them right now. But all these developers are going to have to go through and make sure that they're ready for this. I wonder, I don't know the answer to this, and I know you have a developer account, or I believe you do, Dave. And then
I do.
Eric, I know you do development. If the app developers will have to create a second set of icons that is optimized for single color display versus a full color display.
I don't know. I actually don't know about that. I will
I'm
say
not sure.
that the coloring thing, I don't think it was as good as I had hoped, but they do have a dark mode and the icons do, which is kind of something I had hoped for a long time. That'll switch to, like, it'll make the icons darker, but also make the white black, and it
Mm.
kind of inverts them, but yet it's a little bit more. And that, I wonder if the developers will have to optimize for that. Um, because it like the messages, it's kind of like if you take iMessage, it's green but the white bubble or whatever on the icon. Well, the white bubble turns black, and then the green is like a darker green kind of. So it's a different. Let's see if I can do that.
Is this like a high contrast mode? Is that what?
No, it's just actually. Let me see if I can just show you. Did it actually turn? Maybe I have to do this. Hang on a second. It's different. It's like yeah. Here we go. I don't know if you can. Oh,
And this is in iOS 18.
this is in iOS 18. Yeah, they have and it goes along with. I think it goes along with dark mode, but okay. So, but you can have it on. So I don't know if you can see this. Do you see the
Oh yeah.
messages? And it's weird because like Telegram stayed the same, but Spark darkened. So obviously, I think it's probably part of the. It's still in beta thing, but I do like that.
Well, I have to say, I like that messages icon way better than the standard one. But
I do too. I don't know if I want everything like that though, but I know I wish you could kind of do it sort of icon by icon because I like it better too.
well, I think home screen customization is going to be huge. I'm definitely going to take advantage of it. And to
Yeah.
be honest, as we were talking about it just now, I was thinking I should pull my old Android phone out of storage, charge it up, fire it up, and
Mothballs.
try to reproduce some of the screens, because I would try to keep icons organized by type of action. And maybe this corner would be a certain type of icon, and this corner would be a certain type of icon. To be able to do that in iOS 18 is going to be huge for me. So maybe I'll pull out my old Android phone and see if I can reproduce those home screens, and live in Happy Land again. I don't know.
There you go.
All right, Dave. What is we're getting close to number one here. What is your number two pick in iOS 18?
Number two pick is you might be surprised at this, but I mean I've been a big 1Password user for a long time, and I still will continue to be. But the Passwords app on Apple brought a new Passwords app, a standalone Passwords app that'll be installed on your device as a standalone password app, as opposed to using the keychain and we used to use it before. It'll be it'll work across all your Mac devices, your iPad, your Mac, and your iPhone. And they've already or if you're used to the keychain feature, you'll have all the saved logins, passwords, all that stuff to be ready to go when you authenticate with this app, which is great. Then you can go in and add logins and passwords just like you do on 1Password and any other password manager that you use. And changing passwords, deleting passwords, authentication codes will help along with the password app, and passkeys, which is the big thing now, is happening with that as well. Password sharing will be a lot easier with using that if you had someone else that's using the passwords app. And there's just a ton of great features. One thing I was disappointed about, but Apple says they're planning on bringing it back, is having the ability to import passwords. So importing passwords tool to be able to import them like from 1Password or LastPass. God forbid you have LastPass still. That's even Bitwarden. They haven't implemented just yet. But of course, we're in beta, so you kind of have to expect that. Just like anything, Apple is probably looking into it, as they know it's going to be a very, very popular feature to be able to have the ability to do that. And having a secondary password manager, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been doing that for years. I mean, with iCloud, whenever I would put passwords in, I would have you had your choice. You can do iCloud Keychain, you can use 1Password and one or the other, and store them in both places. They're both secure, both very secure. And then it's not a bad idea to have two. It's obviously up to everybody else, but 1Password has so much more that you can do with it. Beyond, I won't go into that, but for overall with my top picks here for what iOS 18 is offering, I think this Passwords app is going to be a great addition to your utilities.
I think for no other reason than to get people used to the idea of using a password manager.
Exactly.
To this
And it's free.
day,
It's included.
it's free, it's included, but to this day, so many people have a Word document with their passwords in it, or
Or notes, or a notes
or
app.
notes, and they don't even
Right.
secure the note. I know somebody who keeps their passwords in their contacts list, which is just bonkers.
That's
So
awesome.
to have a free included with the operating system password manager that everybody can take advantage of is going to be absolutely huge. Now you mentioned that it'll bring in website passwords from Keychain, which is
Mhm.
great.
Yep.
Do you know, will it bring in things like your Wi-Fi passwords? Does that stuff from
Yes.
Keychain come in as well?
Yep.
And then
Yep, it
what
does.
about what I'm worried about is a lot of cruft being brought in that I don't need in a passwords app, but can still appreciate being in Keychain, like Wi-Fi passwords and network passwords and things like
Mhm.
that I don't necessarily want that in a passwords app. I don't need it in 1Password or Strongbox or Bitwarden or whatever.
Yep.
So I
Right.
don't need it in the passwords app either. Have you noticed what's being pulled in from Keychain and what's not?
Yeah, I mean, I can show this because it's not anything sensitive. I mean, here's the whole list of all the Wi-Fi passwords that I have stored in different places I've been. Some of
Mm,
these I haven't been in many years, so yeah, you're right. It's got some cruft in here there because there's probably some. Yeah, I'm looking through um, some of these Wi-Fi passwords. I haven't been to that place in years, so
right.
um,
I have those too.
but it does bring it in there, which is I think fine. But you also can now you can it maybe even better excuse to clean it up because it was always hard to go where to go in iCloud Keychain where to let me get rid of this. Oh God, I gotta dig deep through here to find it here and
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
to get to it. But now it does. It's very easy because they have it all laid out. And I can show this with there's nothing sensitive here, but it does show all the different sections that you can analyze, and it's very clean and robust, and it shows everything right there. So I can go into all my passwords. It'll show any codes that were saved in here, and then security it does like what the 1Password does. It's going to suggest saying that your password may be compromised, and you can go through and clean up the security. So they've added that too, which iCloud Keychain never did. Um,
But there is a feature in iOS to do that now.
yeah,
When you go into passwords through system settings or through settings, I think it will tell you if it's been compromised because I get the
yeah,
notifications.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
But this way, I think the way they designed this now, being a standalone app on its own, that it's very clean, a clean interface to get to all the things you want to be able to see, and you could share with your family if you're especially if you're if you have a family plan with multiple family members on your plan through iCloud, you can share passwords very easily through this app as well. So
Nice.
Which is nice. And one of the reasons I use like 1Password family, the families
me too.
thing.
Me too.
The one thing I was going to say with this though, whether it's Wi-Fi or a website login or whatever, I think it just kind of picks it up, doesn't it? I mean, you don't have to say save this. It just from you entering it like in 1Password, at the very least, if it's a website or whatever, you have to say, it'll pop up to save it and you save it.
Yeah.
And, if it's something else like Wi-Fi or whatever, you pretty much have to go into 1Password itself and make a new login, where I think this kind of just picks stuff up, right? Just by the fact that you're doing it.
I'm sure the system will still need to use Keychain to store
Yeah.
stuff like Wi-Fi passwords and network passwords
For
and
sure.
things like that. So it
Yeah.
almost feels, as you're describing that, it almost feels like it's more of a relational database type situation where we have two tables, one table serving the passwords app and one table serving Keychain. And if you delete
Yeah.
a Wi-Fi password in one, it's going to delete it in the other. I would assume.
Yeah. I would think so.
Maybe not.
Like a cascade.
To Dave's
Yeah.
point, managing passwords, heck, managing contacts on the phone is a real royal pain.
Right.
Managing passwords and Wi-Fi passwords and all that kind of stuff is not easy. It's much easier on the Mac. If you're going to manage something like your wireless connections or your network connections, fire up keychain on the Mac, or if you're going to manage your contacts, I hate to derail the conversation that way, but if you're going to manage your contacts, do it on the Mac. Don't even bother trying doing it on the phone because it just doesn't work well.
Yep, I agree. But I think it's well worth it once everybody gets on iOS 18. It's something to definitely explore, especially those out there, and many of you out there are not password manager users. This is a great way to get started and not have to pay anything for it.
Absolutely, absolutely should. This is the best excuse to get started with a password manager, and that iOS 18 will kind of preload it with the passwords that you've previously saved,
and you can delete it if you don't want it.
Yeah, it's a big step in the right direction.
It is.
Now, as the host of In Touch with iOS and being on a Mac show, you kind of buried a lead a little bit here, because if I understand correctly, we're going to see Apple releasing browser plugins, not just for Safari, but for third-party browsers. And then isn't there also going to be a Windows version of this password manager as well? Or am I misunderstanding that?
I heard something about that. I don't know for a fact. I know that there had been some rumors about it. But I wouldn't be at all surprised. Apple is being smart and opening up to all platforms. I mean, they do it in the Apple TV area. They do it in other areas. So I think I wouldn't be I'd be at all surprised that they're still supporting the iTunes on Windows, for crying out loud, and they still have everything on a Windows machine. So Apple's still opening up. I mean, in fact, as I just mentioned, they're all in the Windows, the Microsoft Store. So you can go and download those individual Mac apps specific to the Apple devices, including connecting your device, and all their utilities, as well as iTunes and Apple Music and all their other apps are in the Microsoft Store too. So.
One last question on passwords. Can you manage and access the passwords through iCloud.com?
Yes, I believe you can.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I believe you can.
That'll be...
I haven't tried it yet, because I think I don't think it may not be ready just yet because of being on beta, but I'm thinking it probably will. Don't hold me to that, because it could change it at any time. That's why we're in beta.
Yeah. They would almost have to create a beta version of iCloud.com. So it's I would imagine it's easier to just wait and say, okay, we're going to do this internal testing and then roll it out and let the public be the beta testers once this becomes the final release.
In fact, there is a beta.icloud.com that you can get into. So I'll check that after the show here.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, it's been a big lead up. We've gone through 4 favorite new features coming to iOS 18, including the calculator, RCS and messages, the home screen modification and name removal, and even recoloring. The recoloring of the icons falls in there too.
Yep.
The passwords app. But here we are. We're at the number 1 Dave's recommended reason to upgrade to iOS 18. What is that, Dave?
The revised, updated control center.
Oh,
they have done an incredible update to the control center. You can customize this to your heart's content on this now, and I'm bringing it up on the screen now. Right now, it has just the basics that you're all used to, but you just tap and hold here. You see, there's some place markers here down below here. You go down to add a control. There's a cavalcade of different things you can put in here and be able to add. I mean, there's a whole long catalog list of things that you can add here, including your connectivity and your camera and all kinds of things, even the home kit. And there's an endless long list of stuff. I mean, I'm still scrolling. There's still more stuff here that you can add, and including all the accessibility stuff that those who need accessibility for vision or motor skills that can be put into the control center as well very easily just by adding them. Like Find My Watch. That was a great new feature they added now, that you can if your watch is buried in some blanket somewhere, and you can actually do it right from there and add it. Any utilities like calculator and affect the the calculator wasn't even on the control panel. I just added it now. And you can actually, with these widgets too, the big ones, you can shrink them to smaller or bigger if you wanted to make them bigger. It's got a little grab bar here at the top, as I'm showing here. You can put the grab bar, and if you wanted to be a big widget at the top there, you can, and size it any way you'd like, and which is pretty amazing. And you can reorder them, move them. I mean, you remember how you had to do now is you got to go in the settings app, got to go in the control center, and then let's click the minus and the plus, the minus and the plus. Well, this is all right here in one place. So I think this is probably one of the best things that Apple has done with iOS since, I've been an iPhone user basically since the beginning. So we've seen it evolve for a long time here. And I think this was probably one of the I feel is one of the number one reasons to upgrade and to have this ability to customize this.
Well, it's the best thing since the control center was invented.
And the control center itself, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, there's one more reason that this feature would make it worth the upgrade, and that is, and maybe you can answer this right now, Dave, that is if I can finally delete that stupid now playing control center function that I never ever use.
No, you can't.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
That's there on the Mac. It's there on the phone.
Trust me, it drives me nuts. It starts playing too.
I know. Go away. I don't want that.
Yeah.
You can so I guess I can resize it. It looked like that's what you were resizing as you were showing me.
Yeah, I think you can
resize stuff.
But,
yeah.
But I want to remove it. Go away.
I want it gone.
Gone.
It does seem odd that you can't remove, because there is like a whole new thing. There's like a whole new page for it, because the control center. Yeah, it does look like I've got a minus thing here. So it does look like there's a minus thing.
I didn't have
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
So along with the control center, two things I'll add is the flashlight. The flashlight's been there, but it's really cool now. You totally have you could dim it and brighten it before, but now it's got a cool little thing that pops out whenever you turn the flashlight on, and you can widen the beam or make it like a spotlight, and it actually works. It's pretty slick.
How the heck does that work?
I know. You can actually focus the little beam, so that's like the other thing is the motion cues for motion sickness. It has little dots that fly around on your phone, like if you're in a moving vehicle. And I when I first saw it, I was like, okay, so what's the deal with this? How is this supposed to help? What am I supposed to do? And I'm somebody that gets motion sickness really quick. And I was able to text somebody while I was riding, as a passenger, and not get sick at all. And that was like, and it's weird because you're like, is this actually working? But I'm not getting sick. So why am I not? But I think it's just by, when the car turns or whatever, those little dots slide across, so it's almost like, if you have something hanging from the mirror, when you turn right, it'll lean left and vice versa. So it's like, when the car is braking hard, the dots will move forward, or accelerating, the dots will move backward. If it's right, they'll move left, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like you see that, your eyes see that somehow, even if you're not looking directly at it. And it's enough for your brain to say, okay, and not get sick. I don't know. I haven't done it extensively, but from what I have used, it's worked. So
that is really interesting. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
So this is something you turn on in iOS, and it's just on screen all the time then?
No, it's in accessibility, and you can have it on screen all the time. I just have it for when I'm in the car. So It actually just turns on automatically when I think what it does is probably senses you're connected to Bluetooth in the car and pops on, or you're moving, one of the two.
Wow.
But yeah, it's actually pretty good.
That is super cool. So you said you had two things. That was your second thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The flashlight was the first, and then the.
And I have an update here for you.
Oh, okay. All right. We've got an update.
All right. It's on the screen up there. See that? That's now playing. You can actually go in and remove it.
You can go in and remove it.
There's a minus there. Poof, it's gone.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank the heavens.
He was happy to get.
I knew that would please you.
Despite this new nanny state feature coming to Sequoia, if I can finally remove Now Playing from the control center of the Mac, that might be worth having to deal with that notification popping up every week.
I'll go on my Sequoia beta machine. I'll take a look for you.
Yeah.
And Eric just taught me something too. I had no idea that you could brighten or dim the flashlight in iOS 18. I just went in there
really?
and said, well, what do you know? You can brighten and dim
it. In 17, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew?
17 you can do it, yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I just thought you turned it on and turned it off. But there you go. I can make it brighter and I can make it dimmer.
Dimmer, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome,
hold it. There's your bar right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did not know that existed. I always turn it on from the lock screen. So I never turn it on. I have it in the control center, but I never turn it on from there. So I turn it on from the lock screen.
When you're in the phone, you're like, I want to close and open it up again. Just go get it.
Yeah. That's great. That is great. Okay. So Dave, now that you have told everyone how awesome iOS 18 is going to be, what I want to do is wrap things up with 2 super important questions.
Okay.
The first one is, we mentioned at the beginning that iOS 18 is in public beta. So just real quickly, why don't you tell us what that means? And more importantly, should people be loading this on their phones at this point?
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Let me give you just the explanation a little bit of what the difference is between a developer beta and a public beta. The developer beta is the very first version of the OS that's going to be released, and that's for folks who want to be in the developer mode. They're going to develop their apps, and they want to get the most recent things that are out there. Now, bring it over to the public beta. Public beta tends to be a little more solid. It's not as buggy, but it can be buggy. And like I say, the key word there is beta. So I would proceed with caution. You decide you want to do that, just be aware that if it crashes on you, you're going to have to reset it and restore it back to factory settings. So that there's a possibility of doing that. There are also ways of going back if you want to downgrade back as well. But you got to have some be a little tech savvy in order to do that. So just be aware of that. So the public betas are generally going to be a little behind what developer betas are. As we mentioned in the beginning of the show, we're on as we're recording this, we're on developer beta 5, and then on public beta we're now done on public beta 3. So some of the features that are in the developer beta won't be in the public beta. So, but again, I'll continue to say it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
If you're able to invest in an extra device, which I luckily have been able to do this time around, having something a little more current, because I used to have a 10R and that was kind of near the end of the road. Now I got the 13, which is not so bad, that I can at least get the experience.
I suppose. Not that we are recommending anybody put the public beta on their main phone, but I suppose if you are really, really wanting to, your best bet is to wait until we are as close as possible to the final release.
Yeah,
as they start getting into those what we used to call gold masters. I don't know that they call them that anymore.
They still do.
They still do.
Yeah. So
release candidate and then gold masters. Yeah.
As we get to that point, it's going to be safer and safer to put on your phone. Yeah. But at that point, you might as well just wait, because
you got to remember the gold masters and RCs. I'm sorry. You got to remember that the RC and the Gold Master is part of the developer beta, not the public beta. The public beta will probably still sit older, so
that's a good point.
It technically won't be the actual potential final release.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. So we don't actually get release candidates like an RC1, RC2. Those don't make their way into the public beta.
I mean, everything's different these days.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a good point. Now, I did cheat a little bit. I said I had two important questions, and I kind of folded two questions into one there. But I
Okay.
do have a second question, and this ties into kind of what we were just talking about. Who can run this when it comes out? You mentioned a 10R. Can the 10R run this when it comes out? Who can run
I
this
think
when
the
iOS
10
18 hits our
it's going to be,
phones?
I believe it's I'd have to look it up. I thought the 10R is still in. It may not be. Uh, 10s for sure and higher would
Okay.
definitely be on iOS 18. I'll check that while you're doing that. But yeah, it I think 10s is probably where you're going to start off. Let me see.
Have there
Apple
been
devices.
changes between iOS 17 and 18, or is it pretty much the same devices?
Uh, Here I'm pulling up the list now. Here, the nope, I was wrong. 10R is still supported, and the SE second generation or later is still will still be supported.
Wow.
So you
Okay.
can go way back. That's going back a ways. I mean, the 10R is about 2017, 2018, and then the SE, which is pretty long in the tooth these days, but it's still current because they're still selling the second gen or later. The later model is also going to be available too. Now,
But if you're
how
rocking an
they're
iPhone
going
8
to
Plus, you probably are not going to be running this.
No, not anything older than that. You've
No.
been at the end of the road for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
But every model above that is going to be available. Yeah, the iPhone they've done pretty good over the years that they've been supporting the OS. So I'm going to probably guess to say that when we go to iOS 19, that I would think that the 10R would be at the end of its road at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But
Especially as
you
they
know,
start.
people are still sporting those 10Rs. That's fine. That's still a good phone. No, I mean, be it is a little slower than most of the other phones that are out now. But if it works for you, that's great. And I just don't recommend. You got folks that are still sitting on iPhone 10s and older. You're end of the road for a number of years now. Even if you go with the 8, I don't think you can get past iOS 15
No, I
if
don't
I'm
think
not
so.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So that's two versions ago. And that's when anybody ever asks me, should I upgrade? Should I upgrade? I said, well, if you got, I would say probably a 11 or a 12, you're probably okay right now. But
Yeah.
as years progress, and then I start moving down, start moving up a little. So the next year I'll probably say 12 and then higher would be okay. Uh,
Yeah.
but but like I said, there's no rhyme or reason that you have to upgrade if you don't want to. If you want to continue to use an older phone, that's fine. I mean, I've seen people still using iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. I think that's
Oh, me
crazy, but
too.
hey,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's
Yeah. Yeah.
fine. You want to still use that, and don't expect that things are going to be secure. And also the problem is having an older operating system. A lot of app developers are going to stop supporting it. They're not going to
Hmm.
release. They're not going to release apps anymore for those older OSs. So
I think more often than not, the folks I run into who ask me about upgrading their phone and they're sporting a really old model, more
right,
often than that, it's because the app that they want to use is no longer
see,
supported. They can't get that
Hmm.
current version. They don't think about email. They don't think about the security of
no,
browsing. They don't think about that sort of stuff.
of
But
course.
is the app that they want to run compatible? And when the answer is no,
You,
that's when they upgrade.
and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't expect a developer to want to continue to support an operating system
No.
that's 5, 6,
No.
7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that's
No.
why, I mean,
That's
we're still lucky to be part of the Apple community and the Apple ecosystem, because Apple is very fair when it comes to keeping OSs running on older devices for a while. Macs for sure too. I mean, I think we're going back 2017, 2016, something like that. If you were an older Mac, something like that. I might be a little wrong on that, but and then the same thing with the iPad and the iPhone. They're being pretty fair with going back. I mean, they were still supporting the first gen iPad Pro until iOS 17 came out. So
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
on. I mean, iPad OS 16 is the end of the road for that one. So and that model is probably 5, 6 years old. So
Yeah, we're
Hmm.
we're in a weird state with the Macs right now where
right,
more models are being lopped off more quickly. And I think we're up to 2018, 2019 models that are
right,
are currently supported with anything older than that being cut
right.
off. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we hear Android makers say, "Yeah, we're going to support this phone for 18 months or 24 months or
Yeah,
36 months." And the problem is it's solely in the hands of that particular phone's manufacturer whether they're
Right.
going to support the upgrades or not. It's not, unfortunately, in Google's
And
hands. If it were in Google's hands, that'd be great because
and that's
we get a lot more
that's
time.
why and that's why buying a Google Pixel is very smart, because you're going to get the OS update right off the bat.
Yeah.
Not only are you dealing with the manufacturer like Samsung's, the S22, S21, some of the older models, uh, you're at the mercy of the carrier too, because the carrier was the one that manages what gets released as an update or not on an Android, and that's where it becomes a bit of a challenge. Sometimes a carrier could go a whole year before it releases the next version of the Android operating system, because they're testing it and want to make sure it's working as it's planned on the carrier's network. So, I mean, that's what I see anyway. I mean, there
Yeah,
could be
that's
some
definitely
limitations with that. So,
that's true for some model phones. But you're right, with the Pixel and other phones, it doesn't really matter what carrier you're on. You're going to get
right.
those latest updates from Google as they're released. And I still stand by, if you're going to go with an Android phone, go with one from Google.
Yep.
Don't buy a Samsung. Sorry, I just don't like
Yeah.
the
Unless you
changes
buy
they
it
make to
unlocked.
the.
I mean, I think you can buy them
Yeah.
unlocked, but still, that's very expensive too.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It is no less expensive really than the iPhone.
True.
Really, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing too with the latest operating systems and whatnot with developers is that there's a lot of times new stuff in there that Apple's added that developers take advantage of or want to, and now they're if they still try to keep it on older OSs, it can't work, or or people say, well,
Right.
why doesn't this work? Well, it's because you don't have it takes advantage of whatever. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. And as AI continues to roll out, not only on Apple's devices, but all devices, and people
right.
expect it to be part of their hardware and software, yeah, those demands are only going to go up, especially as app developers take advantage of that too.
Yep.
Well, this has been a great conversation, Dave. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing
Oh,
these.
thanks for having me. It
Some of
was a
this
blast.
stuff I
Yeah.
didn't even know about myself. So I think folks who are listening to this are going to
Yes.
be learning what's coming in iOS 18 and kind of excited to get there. And like I said, at this point, we're probably only about a month or so away from being able to load this on
Probably.
our main phones. Now, before we wrap up the show, though, Dave, we've been doing something since January when we did our Essential Apps episode, where we had so many essential apps that we wanted to talk about that we decided we're just going to do a new essential app every episode throughout the year. And as
All
we've
right.
had guests on the show, we've asked them to share their essential apps, because that's a great way to get new apps that maybe Eric and I haven't thought about shared with everyone who's listening. And you said you had an essential app you would like to share this week.
I do. It's
What
a
is that
Mac
app,
Updater.
Dave?
Mac Updater.
Mac
Mac
Updater.
Updater. That this is made by a company called Core Code. It's Mac Updater 3.3. It keeps all your apps up to date effortlessly. It scans the system, maintains, and gives you a maintain overview. There's total privacy, no registration, keeps everything up to date. I absolutely love this app. I run it in the background. It actually runs and scans your entire Mac and makes sure that every single app that you have is up to date. And it's not terribly expensive. I think it's like around $24, something like that. Actually, oh no, it's actually less than that. One person standard edition is $8.55. The pro
Wow.
version, I would go with the pro version. It's $20, and that's actually for one family. So you can actually use that with all that, and it's got a lot of
sweet.
great reviews. I don't know if you guys have used this at all, but yeah, corecode.io is the website, and yeah, they've been making this for a long time, and it's really a great app, and I just use it, scan it, and it tells me when apps need to be updated.
Well, Brian mentioned this when he was on, and yeah,
Did you? Okay.
he just absolutely loves it, and
Yeah.
so it's great to get that second endorsement from you.
Exactly.
One question I have is, how does this work with all the different third-party apps on your Mac? Are you getting all the updates for those? It's aware of
Yeah.
those types of apps, and what about App Store apps? Does it watch those too?
Yeah, it does. It watches it. There's little icons next to each one, and if it's an app store app, it'll have the Apple logo icon in there that tells you that it is, and it'll tell you, yeah, it's got to be up to date. And then you just got to obviously go. It won't, because the cool thing about Mac Updater is you do it right from there. You just launch update, and it forces it out The other cool thing is you actually can add add later security. So if you wanted to be able to like automatically put a password in to override if it needs admin rights to update, you can do that too, and it's fully secure. So it's
Nice.
I don't know if you've tried that, Eric, but
no, I definitely want to try it now.
so if you go into under the settings, I believe it's under updating. Where was it? Privileged install helper tool. That's what it's called. And you just go into if you go into settings under the tab updating, you just enable this, and then it installs it. And now there'll be no need to enter the password, so it kind of just does a thing to put the admin rights in there. But it's fully secure. It doesn't go and do anything outside of this app to do that. So it's not going to grant admin rights to other ways. But I find that one less step you have to always put your password in or use your fingerprint on your Touch ID keyboard. So
yeah.
And this is a paid app. It's not.
It is a paid app. There's a free edition, but there's limitations to it. There's a free edition. It's just all the free edition does is scans. So it'll give you, if you really don't want to pay for it, it'll scan it and then you have to go and update it.
Well, for $9 though.
Yeah, but you go $9 for a standard edition, and then the pro edition is going to give you even more of a thing. But yeah, for $8.55. Come on, who can? That might be hard to afford that. But just having that ability. I mean, it just I run it all the time on all my Macs and making sure that everything stays up to date. And these apps go out all the time, so it does scan it very easily and quickly.
And then that is a one-time payment. It's not a
that's the other thing.
subscription,
It's
right?
one time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
$9 or $20, I think you said, for a family or pro plan. How can you go wrong with that? Especially for all the functionality it's giving you.
Seriously.
They haven't upgraded. No, there's MacUpdater 2. This is where MacUpdater 3. They may charge a little small upgrade fee for when you get if they come out with version 4.
That's reasonable.
But I think that's fair. I mean, just you want to support. You want, like we talked about, you want to support developers, and this app has been I think it's a great app, and I know it's been recommended a lot of other places too, and I got hooked onto it. Actually, our friends at MacGeek, they hooked me onto it.
Nice, especially something like this where they're not just writing an app and putting it out there to the world, which I don't mean to diminish the effort that's put into something like that, but they're actively maintaining this behind the scenes. Someone has to maintain this list of apps, and someone has to maintain the list of, I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of.
They have a massive database of this. Yep.
Seriously.
And this takes some effort. It takes some time. It takes resources on their part to do all this. So, for $9, $20, I think it's absolutely worth it.
And here's something else. I just noticed this. I didn't even know they had this. Like, I have an app in here called Easy Res I was using for changing the resolutions. There's a little icon that says DC. What is that? Discontinued. So that means that the app's no longer being supported. So that tells that they're even giving you that information if you're running
which is
an
nice.
app installed.
Seriously.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I would never have known that that's discontinued. So now I'm going to remove it. So I don't want to use it discontinued app. I don't even use it that much anyway. But
that's absolutely amazing, because literally just before we started recording today, I was going through the applications folder on my desktop Mac and saying, oh my gosh, I don't even think this app exists anymore. Yeah. And it doesn't have the little no symbol through it. So and I tried it and it runs, but sure enough, it doesn't exist anymore. So I'm not going to keep that around. That's crazy. When is it going to stop working altogether? So I haven't used it in a while. So there it goes.
I have some scripts that are in here. I was using for like Apple Music and stuff. That at least even lists the scripts. If scripts get up to date, that scans those too.
Very cool. So that's MacUpdater from corecode.io.
Thanks,
Dave.
Absolutely.
I'm downloading it right now.
I thought you already had it.
Should have did that.
And as Eric downloads that's going to do it for this episode of For Mac Guys Only. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Remember, I do love to get your letters, so if you have any comments about the show, a tip to share, or a software or hardware problem with your Mac, or you want to discuss any other happenings in the world of Apple, you can leave your thoughts in this week's show notes found at formaceysonly.com, or you can drop me a line, mike@formaceysonly.com. And do be sure to subscribe to the show's YouTube channel at youtube.com/FMEOTV. Click that little notification bell so you can find out when we're going live. You can join the chat room, and you can catch all the behind-the-scenes stuff that doesn't make the final cut of the show. Oh, and in something new, I added the RSS feed for Mac Eyes Only to the YouTube channel as well. So now all the audio shows will be available there in addition to the live streams that we do every other week. So be on the lookout for that.
I do too.
Dave, what is the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Thanks, Mike, for having me here. This was a great show. I really appreciate it. And you can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. We stream live on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, usually, most of the time. I'm also, you can find me on Mac Voices Live, which is on Tuesday nights with Chuck Joyner and our cavalcade of fun folks to hang out. Another great show. And I'm also on the British Tech Network. I do the Mac show on there. I just actually recorded that show just before I came here. So, but on social media, I just stick to Mastodon. I'm at DaveG65 at Mastodon.cloud. Thanks again, Mike.
Very cool. Very cool. And Eric, of course, you can be reached at
Eric at For Mac Eyes Only, and this is the only podcast I'm on, so very easy to find.
Have you come back?
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thanks to Dave and Eric for joining me this episode. Stay subscribed, and we'll talk to you next time.